Good afternoon. Good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon.
Thaddeus, and good afternoon to all of your listeners, all of your fan club on your LinkedIn Live page. Well, you never know. There might
Oh,
be a fan club.
yeah.
It's nice
Fan,
to welcome people
fan
if you're
club of one. Here I am.
well, no, seriously. You may not have a fan club, but certainly there are people who are getting great value from what you share on a Wednesday at lunchtime here on your LinkedIn page. So we'll take care of that today with another interesting and pertinent topic. If you're thinking about separating, don't guess your next steps. So, this is for you if you've ever found yourself, or maybe this may be happening to you or somebody that you care about, lying awake at night wondering whether your relationship is over or just going through a rough patch. It's a big difference. Today's conversation is for you if you're thinking about separating. So, this is the guidance you need so you don't need to guess your next steps because separation is one of the biggest decisions a person will ever make. And yet, most often, people try to navigate it without a clear framework, without good information, and without a guide who's impartial to your situation. That
Hmm.
this is your world as a divorce coach. So let's offer some support and answers on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the first things, when someone's thinking about separation, I guess the question is, do I stay or do I go? What's your
Well,
advice?
there's a lot in that. Do I stay or do I go? It's like what's recently happened? Has there been a pattern? Is this something that's new? Is there a recent blow up that has got you scared or concerned? Has it been a pattern? So it's, you know, is there an emotion going on here? Is it how do you put it? Is there something I've been expecting that hasn't been met? Like, I don't know, I always pull something like emptying the dishwasher. Is that something that you don't speak into, but you expect it to be done? And it's I did one couple earlier this year. I had a meeting, and it wasn't a couple. It was someone would say, "Yeah, I come home from work, and he hasn't made dinner, and I work really hard." And I have long days and I'm exhausted and I have to pick up takeaway when I get home. And I was like, so have you asked him or talked to him about this? Oh no, I just expect him to know. So should I stay or should and I was like, well, you're making a decision based on fatigue, you're exhausted, you're coming home, you've had a long day, you have expectations, and when was the last time you and your husband spoke? So, has there been a conversation? Has this been the way your marriage has been all along? And her answer was, "Oh, yeah, we've been married for 2 years, but he was FIFO, and so now we're just getting together." And I said, "Oh, so there's some newness to your relationship, really, even though you've been married for a while. So there's some new behaviors that you're having to adjust to that you're not familiar with. So that could be part of it." And it was, oh, okay, so there's a lot more in the background than just a simple I'm not happy, I think I gotta go. This isn't taking a hamburger back at the joint and going, this isn't done properly. This is a commitment to another person, a relationship that you've entered into, one with yourself and with the other person.
Mhm. And just before you go into that, I
Yeah.
think the example you shared with the dishwasher or with having dinner prepared, to some, it may sound a little trite. Well, of course, I'm not
Yeah.
going to end a relationship because the person didn't empty the dishwasher. However, what I'm getting from this is that it's often those little things that lead us to a decision because we let the little things build up. And actually, it's not a relationship problem, it's more of a communication problem.
Always.
How's that?
And it's the stress around money, the stress around time, which is about money, stress around, not having dinner prepared and having to pick up takeaway. Now we're spending money. And so the whole conversation is he doesn't empty the dishwasher. I come home, food isn't ready, and I'm having to pick up takeaway. So we're spending extra money where he could have gone grocery shopping and we could have been reasonable. There's a whole conversation that didn't happen that went on in her head. And it's
Right.
not,
So we're talking about
this is not
communication.
unusual. Yeah, it's all about community, but it's not, I want to say, this isn't an unusual event. We often have conversations with people who aren't there because we
Right.
imagine the scenario. We imagine the thought. We sort of prepare. We gird ourselves. We're going, okay, I need to know what's going to happen. So I'm going to prepare myself for this. And often our emotions are racing ahead of our facts. And now we're
And I'm
there.
hearing also that this emotional stress that we put ourselves under is there's some expectation wrapped up in that?
Yes, there's always an expectation because, great question, Vicky. You know, if I have an expectation that something's going to be met, or I would, for instance, I, as a dutiful partner, would bring flowers home to my partner, right? But is there an expectation that that would be something on my part or her part? Would there be an expectation of that occurring on a special day? Or is this something that would be, well, it's Saturday, you didn't buy me flowers? Or my expectation, I bought flowers, but she didn't say thank you, right? Now, none of that may have ever been voiced, but there's a conversation that happened internally. There's an internal dialogue that goes on, setting up a failure without it even intending to be one.
Yeah. We're meaning making machines. I say it all the
Yep.
time. We're meaning making machines. Something happens or doesn't happen. Someone says something or doesn't say something. We make meaning of it.
Yep.
When the meaning actually isn't there, that's all in our imagination.
So we use those filters that may be from a trauma, a past trauma, childhood experience, or just this is the way my past has taught me to look at the world. So I'm going to use that lens to now view every action that happens. And it's not necessarily a fact, but it's a feeling that's now dictating what I'm going to have. And that feeling is based upon, well, in my experience, this is what happens. And it's like, well, has that ever happened before? Well, no, but I think it will. So I'm actually going to anticipate it and I'm going to defend myself from that.
From the thing that hasn't happened or
Yes.
hasn't been said. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what's a better quality question for a person to ask themselves if they're thinking, do I separate or do I stay?
Well, a better question would be, well, Sonny, well, what's the reality here? What are my facts? What's going on in front of me? And this is the hard part. So I've just had a blowout with my partner, and it's over money, or usually over money, and we're not able to talk to each other. Now, should I stay? Should I go? This is the end. I don't feel respected. Every time they do this to me, I feel whole dialogues going on. And when you back it up and you put it back into and you remove all of that bubble stuff that's going on and go, well, what really happened here? What was going on? It was about an expenditure that we didn't anticipate, and it scared me because I felt uncertain. What was that uncertainty? Well, that was my feeling around money and not having enough, or that money was not going to be able to be available to pay for whatever was the urgent matter that needed to be done. And that can be a nanosecond of a setup in your heads, and then it goes because it's been bubbling. It's a fear. It's now becoming a fact. And if we separate ourselves and just stand back for a minute and go, what's really going on? And we realize that we just need to do some careful budgeting. We just need to give ourselves a chance to think it through, have a conversation. What's really going on? What's the fact from the fiction?
That's a great
Yeah.
question. I love the quality of that question. What is fact from fiction? Is this
Yeah.
true? Is what I'm thinking a fact or is it an emotion? And there's, it's fantastic. We've got to create room and hold space for emotions. Yet we
Yeah.
don't want to have our emotions drive our decisions, is what I'm hearing from you.
No, and I mean, we can think of world leaders that appear to let their emotions dictate things, and we can see what happens. If you think that if we let ourselves as adults, like a 3-year-old, I want what I want and I want it now, and I'm not sure, and we just constantly barrage that. Well, if we do that in our relationships, it's not going to last very long. It's not going to be very satisfying, and we're actually pushing things in there that we really don't want. We just think we do. And it's, what's key is that if you can't make these decisions on your own, don't. Get some help.
Mm.
Go talk to somebody. Get a therapist. Get a counselor. Talk to a mediator. You know, talk to a trusted friend and say, "Am I going crazy?" Without divulging, because one of the things is that going to a trusted friend isn't about talking about the intimate details of your relationship with somebody. It's talking about your side of your emotions. I think it's really important that when we're in relationship with somebody, we honor that relationship. And if we're going to go talk to somebody like a therapist or a psychologist, that's a safe space. That's one thing. But to go talk to a friend and it turns into gossip about our intimate partner. And I
Mm.
don't think that's appropriate. And that's just a personal thing that I have because I really think that if we treat our partners as in relationship as something that's sacred, that's something that's ours, then when it comes down to it, if we're really going to have a problem, we need to really get down and nut it out. Well, how are we going to do that? But talk to each other. But let me prepare my side of where I am emotionally. Let me get my facts here and not jump from here. And if I can do that, then there's a better chance that if this relationship is worthwhile and it is salvageable and it is based on a commitment to the relationship, then chances are we're not going to be talking about separation. We're going to be talking about doing some counseling to help us understand better where we're at and what's triggering some of the issues that are bubbling up.
Mm. Thank you for that. I think that'll be helpful. And for anybody who's watching this live or on replay, if you have experiences or you have questions for Thad, feel free to drop them in the comments. And we do see them if you're here live with us. And he's happy to respond and speak into it. If you have something that you feel is more confidential, you'd like to get more specific with, then you can email Thad admin@betteroutcomes.au and he will receive your email and respond confidentially. So, Thad, children are
Yeah.
quite often a part of the equation when it comes to couples separating. What do
Hmm.
parents most need to think through when they're at this stage, still considering their options, maybe not yet decided whether or not they should carry on or part
Yeah.
ways?
That old thing that I guess our parents and grandparents will stay together for the kids. That's never an answer. But thinking through, I mean, now we've gone through the stages of what am I emotional, what's fact, what's here. But say I'm still thinking there might be the possibility that I do want to separate because there's some things that aren't working in the relationship that is incongruent with me. So now I've got to think about the kids. And, my dad told me this when I got married many years ago. He said, and there's two things you're going to fight about in a marriage, and it's going to be money and kids are about money. And that's the fact here is that you've got to think of the living arrangements. If you choose to separate, what's that going to look like? How are you going to maintain the living arrangements? What kind of budget do you have? Where are the kids going to be? Where's their primary home going to be? Are you going to be able to share that home? Are you able to provide or assist in providing your partner with the means to be able to do these things? What are we going to do in terms of dividing bills and how are we going to handle that? If there's a strain now, there's going to be a bigger strain because the combination of two incomes that may not be equal, but when they separate, then you've got to try and balance how are we going to do this and navigate that puzzle of meeting the needs of the children. And then the children are going to need Maybe they'll need to see a counselor as well. Maybe they're going to think of what do we need to balance? How are we going to pay school fees if they're going to private school? How are we going to pay for school uniforms? Sports. Kids are always into sports. So what do you want them to continue that. You don't want to take that away. So you've got kit to buy. You've got things to provide for. How are you going to communicate? The list is there. And so this is one of the things as a divorce
Sounds
coach.
daunting.
It does sound daunting, but again, never wander alone into anything unknown. And it sounds really fearful, but all it is just uncertainty. And it's getting the assistance from someone like myself or another divorce coach or a therapist or, to sort of sit down and go, well, how do we do this? What are we looking at? What's it going to look like? And it's doing the imaginal to come back to reality. If we had this, what would it do? Is this possible? Is it practical? And it's not about not separating. It's about understanding what's the reality if we do.
What's the reality if we do? That's a very, very interesting question. And I think
Yeah.
is probably a step that gets skipped
Yeah.
quite often. So what you're sharing here is that as a divorce coach, you can help people with this even before they've decided whether to separate.
Absolutely. It's putting together a thought process that, well, it's backing up. Is the relationship really in trouble, or is it just that you're not able to communicate? Is there other stressors that are happening in there? Are you, working different shifts so you don't see each other? How do you have a date night? Because date nights are important because it's that special time where you two of you can, have that conversation. Do you have a babysitter to help you when you got to go? Have someone come and look after the kids so that you can have at least 3 hours of just you. All those things can be important, even if you still decide to separate, because it's easier to be amicable on friendly terms than to be at war. The saying that we have is combat, right? Conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. So thinking, we don't always need to go to war to get our points across. But we do understand that we will have conflicts, we will have misunderstandings, but that doesn't mean the relationship's over. But then if the relationship does meet the criteria of, I'm just not in it anymore, it's not working for both of us, then let's talk about, what does money look like? How are we going to handle the kids? What are we going to do with separation? What do we do with our supers? How do does that come into it? What do we do in terms of rentals? If we own a house, do we take out a mortgage and help the other? And all these
A lot of
things,
logistics.
there's a lot of logistics, and I'm talking in very general terms, but it's possible to sit down. So, I pull a team together. Let's get a family lawyer involved. So, your legal rights. Let's get a therapist if the kids need a therapy. If you need a trusted counselor to help you understand some of the emotion that's coming up in the past. If we need to have a financial advisor to help you understand, if we need to get a real estate agent involved so you can find something to buy, or do we need to get a property manager if you're looking for a rental? All these things are pulling a team together so that when you do decide to separate, it is with full information. And you may go, I've done all this and maybe it's not for me. Maybe it is, but I'm going in there informed. And I think it's key is that often we make a rash decision and then regret it later. But separating, and you started with the comment, this is one of the biggest things, one of the most important things that we do in our lives. We're ending a relationship, and the grief alone is going to be enormous because no one, and I've said this so many times, on that first day they move in together is sitting there going, okay, now how am I going to separate and what am I going to keep and what's mine? No, we're coming together to have a union, to have a commitment for life. And it doesn't always work. But as I say, a commitment for life, don't give up unless you've done everything possible to understand where your realities are versus your fantasies. And that's when you have the fiction of, well, I'm not having my needs met. Going back to, he doesn't empty the dishwasher.
Yeah, I think
Well,
this is a
what?
pain and pleasure conversation, right? Because it's just
Oh, yeah.
easy. No, I'm not going to say easy. It's a natural, I feel like it's a natural human reaction to want to escape pain. And if the pain and the pressure of a relationship that feels wrong, it becomes too much, if it feels like the pot's boiling over, then the natural human reaction is to escape that. I need to leave. I need to end
Yep.
this pain. And that's where you talk about it's rash. It may not feel rash in the moment because you've been experiencing it for so long, but
Hmm.
it is in a well considered, well planned. I'm hearing a lot of planning is involved in divorce coaching and in having that guide, that impartial guide that can help you
Yeah.
plan how to do it in a more amicable way.
More amicable way and gentler on yourself. This doesn't mean it's going to be pain-free. This is painful, but
Mm,
it's also gathering information, but not procrastinating on the information so that you're going to spend the next 5 years thinking about, am I going to separate? And looking for these things to justify the decision. It's really about pulling together enough information to say, am I in this right space? How am I able to make these decisions? Is this something that I want to do? What are the consequences if I do this? What's my next step? I can go talk to a divorce coach. When we're ready, we can get a mediator involved if we can't communicate properly. If we're having struggles communicating, let's go see a marriage counselor. But if we're
mm,
past that and we're now figuring that we do want to separate, let's talk to a mediator
mm,
about what that looks like. So it comes down to repeat, don't do it alone, ask for help, and it's not a weakness. And a lot of times, particularly with men, will be, well, I can handle this. I've got this. It's like, no, don't. It's really, your heart's breaking on the inside. Don't let it shatter. The worst thing is, and I saw a quote recently that men don't grieve losing their kids, and they grieve the time they didn't have. And that's really the painful thing. I really think for men, there's a hole there. It's not about not having time with your kids, it's the time that you didn't get. And so you look back on it. So it's really important to have the foundations now. If you're thinking about separating, if you want to have a discussion, what is it that you're really trying to accomplish here? It's not necessary to hurt each other or weaponize the children or weaponize the courts against each other, because all that does is just cost money and animosity down the road that no one benefits from. Believe me, the long-term dividends don't happen. If you choose to separate, do it gracefully and with dignity. Because if you've got children, they're going to have children one day. And what are you going to look like as a grandparent? Do you want to have times? So it's always future focused, future thinking. It's never about what is my immediate gratification tomorrow or in the now, because this is about a relationship, and relationships sustain us. They keep us human, they keep us going. And while, if we're going to separate, it's not about we have to still be in love with each other. And we don't even have to like each other that much, but we do have to have mutual respect. Mutual respect will go a lot further in keeping the peace and making sure that if you do choose to separate, that you do it with all of the information to do it in a good way.
mm. Sage advice. And I don't, I think that most people, if they're going through a painful conflict, would want it to be as stress free and as amicable and painless as possible. So, what you've just
Absolutely.
shared really is a path towards a more amicable conflict or end of conflict. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I think you've just wrapped us up so beautifully, unless there's anything else that you wanted to share about this topic, or for people who are either in it now or for professionals who work with their own clients who are experiencing this.
Yeah. I would just say, again, repeat, don't try and do this alone. Get information, get help, reach out. I do complimentary calls. if not all of us who work in this area, will do a 15 to 30-minute call with somebody just to talk them through the process. What's going on for you? What are you looking for? How do you want that to be? And just give some ideas so that you're not left wondering that neighborhood inside your head by yourself and echoing in that chamber that's thinking, I have no answers and I don't know what to do, and becoming increasingly frustrated.
Yeah.
Think of a coach
Wonderful.
as someone that helps eliminate and alleviate that frustration.
Mm. Yeah. And someone, like you said, who's impartial, not a friend who has their own lens and their own view of your relationship and of themselves with the relationship they have with you. And it can get quite muddy. By all means, rely on friends to, for socializing and to feel better about your world, but possibly not the greatest place to get advice. So I
Yes.
think it's important to have that impartial guide. And thank you for sharing how you support people in this situation, this scenario. It's a chapter in life, it's not everything, and the pain passes, especially when you can be brave and pick up the phone or send an email just to reach out and ask for some help, some guidance, and some insights.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we
Absolutely.
won't be here for the next week or two, so just stay
Mm.
tuned. If you're a regular viewer of this Wednesday lunchtime show, then have a look at Dad's LinkedIn page to see when the next one is. Yeah, register for that event, and we'd love to see you there in a few weeks.
Absolutely. See you in a few weeks.
Thanks, Dad. See you.
Thanks, Vicki.